Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I will be walking you through some of the essential skills and tools that data engineers need to know in 2025. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, so like I mentioned in today's video, I will be walking you through some of the key and essential skills and tools that data engineers need to know. Alright, so let's jump to it. First of all, let's define who a data engineer is and what they do. Okay, so data engineers design, build and maintain the data pipelines and infrastructure that any data-driven organizations use. Okay, so these guys also enable data scientists and analysts to access clean and reliable data. They are the key players in the data ecosystem of any data-driven organizations. Alright, so again, data engineers are the guys that build, design and maintain the data pipelines and infrastructure that power the data that data analysts and data scientists use. Alright, so what are some of the core technical skills that data engineers need to know? Alright, the first one here is programming languages, and in the list we have Python, Java, Scala and SQL. Okay, so the most important ones from the list are SQL and Python, and definitely with SQL you do need to know SQL because you will be querying data from databases. Okay, so SQL is a language that is mainly used to query databases. So if you are a data engineer, you should know some level of SQL and be comfortable with it. And then with Python, you just need to know basic to advanced Python programming skills. Okay, so you don't need to be a Python programmer, but you should be able to write a basic Python code and also be able to know how to read a Python code. Okay, so some level of familiarity with Python will be good if you want to be a data engineer. Okay, the next one here on the list is database management. Alright, so as a data engineer, you should be able to know how to interact with data in MySQL database, PostgreSQL database, as well as NoSQL databases like MongoDB or Cassandra. Alright, so I've done some videos on MySQL database and PostgreSQL database. So if you're interested to take a look into those videos, so you should be able to load data into MySQL database and be able to query data from this database as well, including PostgreSQL database. So these are the open source mostly used database management tools that are out there. Okay, so MySQL, Postgre, MongoDB, you should be able to have some basic understanding on how these tools work and how to work with the data on these databases. Alright, the next one here on the list is big data tools. Alright, so as a data engineer, you should have some basic familiarity with how these tools work. We are talking of Hadoop, Spark and Kafka, and these tools let you handle and process massive amounts of data. The next one here on the list is cloud platforms. Alright, so as a data engineer, you should have some familiarity with how these cloud providers work. So we are talking of AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. Now I have to mention here, you don't have to know all of them. You can just pick and start with one of them. As for my case, I started with AWS. You can also move to Google Cloud Platform and just play with the data services that are provided in this environment. Azure also has a lot of data analytics services in the environment, so just pick one of them and play around with it and just be familiar with it. Once you know one of them, you'll come to realize that a lot of these cloud providers actually are pretty similar. Alright, so you just need to pick one and run with it, and you should be able to be good as a data engineer. Alright, and the last one here on this list we have ETL or ELT tools, and here we are talking of Apache NiFi, Talent and Informatica. So these are tools that you can use to bring and integrate data from different sources. So if you have data, let's say that is in MySQL database and you want to move it somewhere else, then some of these ETL tools will help you to move this data and transform them around. The next one we have on the list here is data modeling and warehousing. Alright, so as a data engineer, you should have some level of familiarity with star and snowflake schemas, because this will let you process and store data efficiently. Okay, so with regards to data warehousing, as a data engineer, you should be familiar with how some of these cloud data warehouses work. Like for example, here we have Snowflake, Redshift or a BigQuery. Remember, as a data engineer, you will be ingesting data from different sources, and sometimes you may be required to ingest the data to any of these data warehouses. So you should be able to know how some of these data warehouses work. All right, so we have Snowflake if you are using Snowflake, and Redshift if your data organization or if your company is using AWS Redshift, then you should be able to have some familiarity with Redshift as well as BigQuery. Okay, and the last one here is some level of understanding on the differences between OLAP and OLTP systems. Alright, so OLAP is analytical systems and OLTP are basically transactional systems. So if you are working on any transactional data, so that is basically like PostgreSQL or MySQL database, any database that is handling transactional data, then we are talking of OLTP systems. And then with OLAP, we're just, these are systems that store analytical data. So Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery are mostly OLAP systems because they are optimized for reading data. Okay, so that's basically the major difference between OLAP and OLTP systems. Okay, so let's move to data pipeline development. As a data engineer, you will be designing and implementing ELT data pipelines. So you should be able to know how to do this. And some of the tools that you will mostly be working with include things like Apache Airflow, Darkstar, AWS Glue. Sometimes you may need to use Databricks or even dbt. Okay, so these are some of the tools that you'll be using in your day-to-day pipeline development. Again, so as a data engineer, you'll be building data pipelines and infrastructures to bring data from different sources, so some familiarity on how to use these tools will be a big plus for you. As a data engineer also, you need to ensure that your data is of high quality and reliable, because this data will be getting used by other teams like data scientists and analysts. So if there is any errors on the data, then they will not be able to use this data and drive business decisions for your company. So definitely you have to make sure that the data that you bring in is of high quality, has some error handling in place, and also is reliable for your other teams to use. Let's move to the topic of modern data engineering tools. As a data engineer, you do need to be familiar with what they call modern data tech stack. And some of these tools, the first one on the list here is Databricks. Okay, so Databricks is a unified analytics platform that is used for big data and also artificial intelligence. So this is one of the most popular tool actually in the market currently. So as a data engineer, you may be required to know how to use Databricks. And with Databricks, you can actually do a lot of things. You can write your notebooks in SQL, you can write it in Spark, you can write it in PySpark, and it's built on top of Spark, so it is very fast and also distributes your data efficiently. So Databricks is definitely one of the tools that as a data engineer, at one point you may need to have it in your pocket. Okay, the next one here is dbt, and dbt is also one of the most popular tools in the market currently, and it stands for Data Pure Tool, and it's mainly used to transform data that's already in your data warehouse. Alright, so again, dbt is not a ingestion tool. Once you bring your data to your data warehouse, then you can leverage dbt to transform your data and also put in place some version control tool like a Git or GitHub, all of those things. So dbt will let you actually work as a software data engineer. All right, so dbt, if you use dbt in your day-to-day life, then you probably fall into the category of analytics engineers, because you are basically working as a software engineer while handling your data. All right, so dbt is a very popular tool. I've done a number of videos on dbt, so definitely take a look into the channel if you want to know how dbt works and how to install it, how to play with it. Okay, the next one here that we have is Airbyte, and this is open source data integration tool that is used for pipelines. So if you are using if you're building ELT pipelines, you might have to use Airbyte at some point. And also with Fivetran, this is automated data integration for cloud data warehouses. Okay, so if you have your data in the cloud, you may at some point need to use Fivetran or leverage Fivetran to integrate your data across the sources where your data sits. Okay, so with Fivetran, you can actually connect to your legacy databases that are sitting on-prem and move it to your cloud data warehouses. Okay, and the last one here we have is Prefect, and this is a workflow orchestration tool for modern data teams. So you can also put here another tool like Airflow. So that is a tool that is going to allow you to orchestrate your pipelines and also monitor them. All right, so these are some of the tools that you do need as a data engineer in order to be successful in your career. All right, let's now move to orchestration and workflow management, and I think I have touched on some of this. So Apache Airflow is one of the most popular tool in the market, and it is a tool that you can programmatically author, schedule, and monitor your workflow. So say you have ingested your data to your data warehouse, and there's some transformations that you've done to that data, and you have jobs now that you schedule daily. Then you can use a tool like Airflow to schedule and orchestrate that data. Okay, so Apache Airflow is very good when it comes to orchestrating your datasets. I have done some videos also on Apache Airflow, so if you're interested, take a look into the channel and check those videos. I'll also put them in the description. And then the next one we have on the list here is Daxter, and this is orchestration tool for building data pipelines. So this is also similar to Apache Airflow. And the next one here is Prefect, and this is a modern workflow management system for data pipelines. We have Luigi, which is a Python-based tool for complex pipelines. All right, so there are some other orchestration tools out there, but these are some of the most popular ones: Apache Airflow, Daxter, Prefect, Luigi. Again, Airflow is widely used in the industry, so some other tools that are actually getting traction right now are Daxter, we have Prefect, and Luigi. So whichever one you pick out of this should be good for you as a data engineer. I use mostly Airflow, but I'm also trying to venture into how Daxter and Prefect works. Okay, so some familiarity on any of this is also good for you. You don't need to know all of them to start as a data engineer, but you may be needed, you may be required to use some of this in your day-to-day work. So just pick one of them and read how to use it, and you should be good. As a data engineer also, you should be able to know how to use version control with Git, and the reason why you need version control as a data engineer is because you'll be using it in your day-to-day activities to track changes in the code that you build. You also will be using it to configure and manage your pipelines. Okay, so with Git also and version control in general, you will be able to collaborate with other teams effectively, and if there's any mistake that you make with your code, then you will be able to roll back to any previous version if required. Okay, so the key concepts when it comes to versioning with Git, these are some of the keywords and concepts that you will be coming across when you're working with Git. So we have repositories, we have branches, commits, pull requests, and matches. So these are some of the terms just that you will be coming across when you work with version control systems. All right, and some of the tools here, of course, we have Git, which is the most widely used version control system. And when it comes to the platforms for hosting and managing your Git repositories, we have GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Again, you just need to know one of these. A lot of them are very similar. Okay, so I have used a lot, I have used all of these, and they are pretty similar when it comes to usability. The next skill here as a data engineer that you should have is cloud computing skills, and here we are talking of some level of proficiency with cloud services. And here we have S3, Lambda, Azure Data Factory, BigQuery. Again, you don't have to know all of this, but just some level of understanding in one or more of this. Okay, so if you work in AWS, then knowing S3 is good, knowing how to use Lambda is good for you. If you are in Azure, knowing how to use Azure Data Factory, or in GCP, knowing how to use GCP BigQuery is also good for you. Now, as a data engineer, just there's some more tools that you will need to know in this cloud environment. So for example, if you work in AWS, then knowing how to use S3, Lambda, knowing how to use Glue is also good for you. If you are in GCP, Google BigQuery Cloud Functions, PubSub is good. If you are in Azure, knowing how to use Azure Data Factory, Blob Storage, and things like that will be good for you. All right, so again, just know especially the data analytics services that these providers provide. Okay, and then when it comes to containerizations, you should know, or you should have some level of understanding on how to use Docker or Kubernetes, because you'll be using this a lot to containerize the applications that you build. So it's definitely good to know how to use some of this, and also knowing how to use infrastructure as code. We are talking here of Terraform, which is really widely used. This will let you provision your cloud services without having to manually build them. and also if you're in AWS, cloud formation is good, but again Terraform is actually widely used. So uh, if you learn Terraform and just know some basic skills on Terraform, you should be good. As a data engineer also, you should have some level of understanding on how to use big data technologies, and here we are talking of distributed computing frameworks like Hadoop and Spark. Again, Hadoop is no longer very popular. It used to be very popular 10 to 15 years ago, but now with companies moving to cloud, people have started using things like data lake S3 to store large amounts of data, which used to be what Hadoop used to shine in, but nowadays a lot of companies are no longer actively using it. But if your company is using Hadoop, then definitely you should have some level of understanding on how to use Hadoop and also Spark as well. Okay, you should also, if you work with stream processing data, then you should know how to use stream processing tools like Apache Kafka or Apache Flink. And if you are in AWS, then knowing how to use Kinesis will also be beneficial to you as well. As a data engineer also, you should know the differences between data lakes and data warehouses, because you will be using this data again if you work in the cloud. When it comes to data governance and security, as a data engineer, you should also have some level of understanding on how to do this. And because you will be working with data mostly, you want to ensure that there is data privacy and compliance in place for the data environments and infrastructure that you build. And also you should be able to comply with policies like GDPR and CCPA. As a data engineer, you want to implement access controls and encryption for the data that you build. And with encryption, a lot of these databases and data warehouses that you use already have this in place. But if you are working with any of the tools that does not have encryption with the data that you have, then you want to make sure that you build encryptions and make sure that your data is protected. And then with access controls, you want to also build permissions on what users access in your database and data warehouse, so that if there are any sensitive data, you don't want it to go to the wrong hands. All right, and then some of the tools that you can actually use to enforce this when it comes to, say, access controls. Apache Ranger, if you work with Hadoop, then you can use Apache Ranger to enforce access controls. You can also use AWS IAM to create roles and apply permissions on what users can access within the environment. And also Azure Active Directory, you can also build your permission and have users in your Active Directory and put in place what they can access. Okay. And then some of the other essential skills actually as a data engineer are soft skills. So you, as a data engineer, you should have some soft skills, and here we are talking of problem solving and critical thinking. Okay, so you also should be able to collaborate with data scientists and analysts and business teams, and have also some good communication skills, because you will at some point need to explain technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. So you don't want to use a lot of technical jargon when it comes to talking to people who are not technical. Okay, so you should have some sort of soft skills. Okay, the last one here is, as a data engineer, you need to have continuous learning mindset. Data engineering is a rapidly evolving field, so you need to stay updated with these tools, technologies, and the best practices that are used when it comes to using these tools. All right, so some of the resources that you can use, you can go to online courses, you can do certifications, or you can also join online communities where some of the tools that we have mentioned here are discussed, so that you know what are the best practices are used, and also just be up to date on how to use these tools. Alright guys, so in conclusion, data engineers are critical to modern data infrastructure. These are the guys that are key in your data ecosystem for any data-driven organizations. They are the guys that will build your infrastructure and make sure that your data is in place, so that your data analysts and data scientists can use. As data engineers, you need to have a blend of technical and soft skills, because this will be able to help you to be successful in your career, as you will be interfacing with other teams that are not technical. Okay, some of the tools that you need as a data engineer include Databricks, dbt, Airflow, and Git. Again, these are the modern data tech stack. and you should have some familiarity with this. There are a lot of tools that you need as a data engineer. These are not exhaustive tools that you need to use, but they fall into the category of the modern data tech stack. So if a company currently is trying to transform and move from legacy to the modern data tech stack, these are some of the tools that are very popular right now. Databricks, dbt, airflow, kit. Okay, so these are the tools that you definitely do need to kind of have as a data engineer. Continuous learning is also key to stay relevant in the field. Remember, data engineering is a rapidly evolving field, so you always want to make sure that you're staying up to date with the tools that are there in the industry, and you want to upgrade your skills, otherwise you'll be out of date. Okay, so make sure you stay up to date by always continuously learning. Now that we have learned some of the relevant skills that you need to have as a data engineer, let's go and see what are some of the skills that are required in any of the roles that are currently listed for data engineering. So I'm going to go to Indeed, which is one of the websites that you can use for job hunting, and right here I'm just going to go and type data engineer here in the search, and here we will see what we have on the list. Okay, so let's see this one for Hill Point. So if you just click this, you will see on the right side here the description of what is required in this role. So you can see here we have the data engineering responsibilities. You need to design and build data pipelines. Okay, so you need to develop and implement ETL pipelines using Azure Data Factory, integrating data with our Azure data infrastructure, ensuring clean, structured, and analysis ready data. All right, so this is very important. We went through this. As data engineers, you'll be designing and building data pipelines. You see also here data architecture. You will be architecting and maintaining scalable, efficient, and secure data systems on Microsoft Azure. You'll also be processing this data. Okay, so you can see here processing, optimizing data storage, processing, and retrieval. You'll also be collaborating. Okay, so this is the key skill that we discussed towards the end of that slide here, where we mentioned that you also need to have soft skills because you'll be collaborating with data scientists, analysts, and also investors in this case. So these are stakeholders, these are non-technical guys, and you will be delivering this data to them. You also need to have data quality in place so you can ensure data integrity, quality, and consistency. Very good. Okay, so you can see here this one is listed here. The data that you build must have some level of quality in it and integrity, because the guys that will be using the data, they don't want to care. They just want to make sure that this data is trustable, and as a data engineer you want to make sure that the data that you build and the infrastructure that you build for this data is trustable. And then the last one here, we have automation. So you'll be automating your ETL processes. Here they have mentioned using Azure Data Factory and Azure Functions. Some of the other things, you can also use Airflow to orchestrate this data and things like that. And then we have monitoring and maintenance, and you have the tools here listed. Now remember, this is a customer that is using Azure, so we mentioned that you do need to have some level of cloud computing experience. So just go ahead and pick one of this environment and know. So here what is important is you don't and we went through the list, right? So if you are applying for this company, you don't need to know everything that we discussed on that list. So you just need to know what these guys need. So it's also important to go to the job description and read what they need, and if you're interested in that job, you can see if you have the skills required, and if you don't, then you can go and learn those skills so that you can apply for that role and be successful on the role. Okay, so let's check this one here, data engineer for Lincoln Energy Solutions. What do they have here? So let's see for the description, the responsibilities we have here. Okay, so you can see you'll be working to integrate and consolidate data from different sources. So again, this is kind of ETL, bringing data from different sources and consolidating them. All right, so you'll be combining raw information from different sources and organizing data warehouses to ensure efficient and secure data storage and retrieval. Okay, so you can see here we have here seen the term data warehousing. Okay, so again, this is very important. You build data systems and pipelines, evaluate business needs and objectives. Okay, very, very good. Let's see if they have mentioned the core technical skills here. You can see here knowledge of programming languages like Java or Python is needed, hands-on experience with SQL database design and SQL Server. All right, very important. Analytical and numerical skills, and also excellent communication skills. So you can see as a data engineer there's a blend of technical and soft skills as well. All right, so let's take a look into the last one here for Mantech here. Okay, so you go here and you will see the responsibilities here: designing, implementing, and optimizing large-scale ingest systems in a big data environment. All right, so we mentioned big data solutions there, and we can see that it's also mentioned right here. Optimizing all stages of the data lifecycle from initial planning to ingest through final display and beyond. Now remember, as a data engineer, you'll be ingesting data and you'll be owning this from the beginning all the way to when the data is usable. Okay, so we'll be developing data profiling, deduping logic, matching logic for analysis, and then there's also here building AI and machine learning workflows. Now remember, all of these things you don't need to know, but it is useful to know. So again, just the job descriptions will be different from company to company. And then so here we have the core technical skills that are required here. You need to have a programming experience, so you have a Python or a SQL or database experience really. So working with database MySQL, Postgre will be good for you here. Experience with full data lifecycle from ingesting through display in big data environment. So this is good. So again, when we are talking of big data environment, don't be intimidated. They are basically talking about environments where they're storing data. So if they're using BigQuery, for example, then technically that's a big data environment because you are storing large amounts of data. If you are in AWS and you're using S3 or Redshift, then also that's a big data environment, and you can be using big data and distributed processing tools like Spark to process this data. Okay, so that is just good to hear. You can see here experience with data pipeline system like Apache Airflow. All right, very important. This is for orchestration, so if you know Apache Airflow, this is good for you. And also for these guys, they just need high school diploma or GED. So as long as you have the technical skills, then you should be good. All right, guys, so you can go through this list, just go through the description, and then you will read what they need. Some of the experiences and expertise that they will be needing in some of these roles and responsibilities differ on the level of the job. Okay, so if you are a senior guy, then you will be required to know more than a junior person. So depending on the stage in your career that you are on, if you feel like you are a junior guy just starting, then look for the roles that require kind of not robust tools to use, so that you will be learning on the role. So if you look at this senior data engineer here, you'll see that they require more here. So for example, here 4 years of experience with Java, Scala or Python, 2 years of experience with AWS, developing data pipelines, working with Spark. You will see that a number of these require actually more experience, but some of the tools that are mentioned are kind of across. So as a data engineer, whether you are a junior or a senior, some of these tools will be common across them. It's just the level of experience. How long have you used these tools? Just go through the job description if you want to apply any data engineering role and see what they are mentioning. Alright guys, so that's what I wanted to show you in this video. I just quickly wanted to show you what are some of the essential skills that data engineers need to know. We went through an exhaustive list here of a combination of the core skills that you need to have, as well as the soft skills and some of the technologies that will be used a lot in data engineering. So I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel to stay updated. Let me know in the comment section if there's a video that I need to make regarding data engineering, and I will make it. Alright guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.